Hi there. This is Dr. Carin Matsushita. I'm a naturopathic physician and registered acupuncturist at Brio Integrative Health Center in Richmond, BC. And today we're going to be doing a master class on spring cleaning for the body, how to feel lighter and brighter with detoxification. So have you seen some of those photos going around, some photos from space showing improvements in the air quality since we've been in isolation? Maybe you've seen some photos of LA without that typical smog. Right now, nature is getting this nice little breather, a chance to detox. And I realize that this may be a perfect time for us to detox as well. It's the right season. It's that social isolation that's helping to essentially forcing us to slow down. And this might be altogether an ideal time for supporting elimination and essentially clearing the path for better mood, better energy production, and even healthier weight. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Exactly why detox is important. What are the obstacles we face when we're doing detoxification? What exactly are we referring to when I'm saying toxins? And then, of course, how do we get started? So let's get started with why detox matters. All right. So detoxification, why it matters. We need to eliminate waste that our bodies accumulate every day. So just like when you wash your car and your sponge gets full of dirty, soapy water, you need to wring that dirty water out. Otherwise, if you put that sponge into that clean water, it's not going to absorb it again, right? So that elimination of waste from the body is a critical part of our healthy function for every single person. Regardless of whether you actually have symptoms or don't have any symptoms, whether you're young or old, whether you work in an office or a lab, or you're a firefighter, or you work from home, like many of us do right now, all of us need to support a really healthy, regular elimination from our body. And what we're eliminating here are byproducts of metabolism, as well as some of the things that we're exposed to in the environment. And unfortunately, we know that absolutely every single one of us are exposed to measurable and significant amounts of environmental toxins. We're exposed even before we're born, unfortunately. In one study by the Environmental Working Group, an average of 200 chemicals were found in the umbilical cord blood of newborn babies. So some of these were pesticides, fire retardants, mercury, PCBs, and so many of these toxins are linked to cancer in humans and animals, and brain toxicity as well. And of course, a lot of these we don't even know about the results of combining the hundreds of chemicals that we find. And so those are an average of 200 chemicals found in newborns. So likely for the rest of us, there's quite a bit more. And this was a study actually back about 15 years ago. So, and there's no reason why I would think that it'd be any less now. All right. Now, on top of the environmental impact of modern life, there's another obstacle to detoxification, and that is our contemporary Western lifestyle is all about productivity and activity. There's always this pressure to be more productive, get more done. I know that I have that tendency to just think, okay, what do I need to do next? What do I need to get done? And if that wasn't enough, of course, even between the activities, there are these countless distractions to keep our attention moving from one thing to the next. In Chinese medicine, this type of energy is called yang energy. Maybe you've heard of it as yang energy. Yang energy is described as hot, productive, masculine, active, and its opposing force is called yin energy. Yin energy is cool, still, introspective, feminine. It's in nature, you can see it as water going over, gently moving over river stones, or the gentle subtleness of moonlight. These are typical sort of yin qualities. Well, of course, working hard and being productive is really important. As with most things, if it's taken to its extreme, this is going to create more negative impacts instead of positive. And from a traditional Chinese medicine point of view, good health is the dynamic balance between yin and yang. It doesn't mean that you have the same amount of yin and yang at each moment, but if you take the totality of a day or a month or a year, the balance of yin and yang should be pretty balanced when you take the whole picture together. So we're talking about this because detoxification is more of a yin activity. And the reason being is it's not something that we can force to happen. It's something that we have to approach with a different mindset than we usually approach our goal-oriented day-to-day life. So one of the common questions that I receive is, what do I need to do to detox? And a great place, this is a great place to start, but one of the reasons we struggle with detoxification is because it's more about letting go of doing something and instead making space for that process to happen. So it's a little bit of a shift in our mindset. So this means that we're essentially cultivating conditions for it to occur on its own rather than forcing it or making it happen. Anybody who struggles with sleep understands that healthy sleep occurs when we create conditions for that. When we have that consistent routine, we have a dark room, we have good sleep hygiene, healthy diet, all of these things, you can get really beautiful sleep. And even though you can force yourself to sleep with medications, it certainly isn't the same quality of sleep. So we have to create the conditions and then allow our body to do that. And that is a very yin type of an approach. Okay, and then right now, I think the timing, as I mentioned, nature's getting a little bit of a rest, a little bit of a detox. I think that's a great opportunity for us to join in as well. On top of that, spring is often considered a time of renewal, of regrowth. You certainly can see that in the garden. Right now, things are just bursting all over, and this is a really important time to just make sure that we've cleared away a lot of the old growth from the previous year, so that the new growth can really have the space to thrive. And I think that just like a garden, our body requires that renewal and space, that clearing of the path to make that, allow that growth to happen. The body is constantly renewing itself. For example, our gut lining is brand new and renews itself every 5 to 10 days. So given the right conditions, the body can repair itself quite rapidly, especially the gut. So if you're watching this video and it's not springtime, it's still a good time. Detox helps the body at any season. Okay, I've been saying detox, elimination, clearance. I'm referring to all of this same process of this, supporting the natural built-in mechanisms of eliminating waste from the body. And then I've also been using the term toxins, so I want to just clarify what I mean by toxins. So toxins refers to anything synthetic, chemical, biological, that can accumulate in our body and block the healthy, smooth functioning of our body. So as I mentioned before, these could be environmental toxins like pesticides or fire retardants, formaldehyde, PCBs. They could be heavy metals like mercury or arsenic. Some water supplies can have arsenic in them. Natural toxins might be something like the byproducts of our own metabolism that have a difficulty being eliminated, so reduced bile flow, for example, or improperly digested food sitting in our gut can become a toxin. Toxins are also produced by pathogens in our body. So it could be like mold producing mycotoxins could need to be cleared out of the body. All right. So let's get into here what we can do to get started with this. So the systems that support detoxification and waste processing in the body, they're very sophisticated, interconnected. So today I want to just drill down on some of the specific systems that I think are of particular relevance in this season of renewal. So I'm going to start with the nervous system. That part of the nervous system called the autonomic nervous system is responsible for coordinating the different organs, without any kind of conscious direction from us. And it coordinates organ systems and heart rate and breath and day and night cycles, and even perspiration. So it should come as no surprise that it actually automatically manages body detoxification and waste elimination as well. So our role here in this automatic process is just to make sure that we're not shutting down that whole system with constant activity or with stress. So the ideal environment for detox systems to fully function is to make sure that we are calm, safe, and in a relaxed state of mind. Much of this detoxification activity happens when we're sleeping, so making sure that we have a really good sleep. One of the things that are really important here is just making sure we have a consistent day and night routine, whether that's going to bed at the same time, waking up at the same time, eating meals at the same time pretty much each day. This can be really reassuring to our nervous system. Something that I would absolutely do is create a daily ritual around relaxation. And this is where I want to make a distinction here between what some people would call unwinding and relaxing, because you'll definitely hear some people who are, say, oh, I want to unwind, and they start to check their phones or watch a show. When I say relaxation, we're defining that more by the absence of this goal-oriented activity or the absence of distraction. So this might be something like taking a bath or listening to music, reading, daydreaming, imagining, anything that allows us to be creative. I know that relaxing is often a challenge for us because we're so accustomed to immediate activity as soon as we're a little bit restless or as soon as there's a little bit of space in our day. And we're worried that we're going to be bored before we get to the relaxed phase. And I've definitely encourage you to try to get to that area where you have lots of space in your mind to just let your mind wander. So the first thing to do is just make sure that we have this space and time in our home or around our home to do that, to allow your mind to wander. I think playing with pets is a good way to do this. Watching animals, enjoying beautiful scenery, playing with your kids, those kinds of activities where there's no expectation around or any goal, and that's just being in the moment and really enjoying that, or just observing yourself in that moment. that state of relaxation is a really good transition to sleep as well. So I found it really helpful to create a ritual of relaxation at the end of my day before going to bed, because that also helps give that transition from sort of that working daytime activity to restful sleep time. Um, During sleep is one of the most important times for detoxification. Your brain essentially will be, the lymph system will wash the brain during your sleep. Liver detoxification also ramps up during sleep. So these kind of yin activities can help with better sleep and better detoxification. So speaking of liver, that's where I'm going to move to next. Liver is probably the most important organ related to detoxification. The liver is an incredible organ. It really has unparalleled ability to regenerate itself. However, with the environment and our diet, we do put quite a bit of burden on our livers. So as a result, I have seen that many people have some kind of an impaired liver function. And it makes it really difficult because the liver function um, can exist long before it shows up on a lab test. And we don't necessarily feel liver discomfort. With ongoing liver dysfunction, it's really important to make sure we're proactive about that. Um, not so I just have a note here too, because a lot of people think, oh, I don't take a lot of medications, I don't drink a lot of alcohol, my liver's probably fine. Certainly, we know that there's a connection between alcohol and liver function, but there is just so much more that it can be stressing our liver. So it's something that I would definitely look at for a lot of people. So now, if you've been told that you have liver issues like hepatitis, or you know that you've have jaundice or have had that, or cirrhosis, or you've been told you have fatty liver disease, then you know that there's something, inflammation and a dysfunction potentially in your liver. But here are a few other signs that liver function could be impaired and that it's something that we really need to support. So skin rashes can be associated with liver dysfunction, high cholesterol, weak immune system, gallstones, high estrogen levels, fatigue, depression, headaches, even puffy eyelids in the morning or dark urine in the morning. Difficulty digesting fats could be associated with bile issues, and constipation, as well as chemical hypersensitivity, meaning you may be one of those people, if you go through the cleaner aisle of the store or through the perfume section of the department store, you start to have that reaction. That's that chemical hypersensitivity. That could be related to poor liver function. Even weak or achy joints or muscles can be related to liver function, and lastly, insomnia as well. We mentioned that alcohol, of course, can burden the liver, but the prevalence of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease is now the most common liver disease in the Western world. So clearly there's something beyond alcohol that's stressing our liver. So I'll take a few moments here to just talk about what some of those things might be, so that maybe we can reduce the exposure here. All right. Some of the causes burdening our liver, I'm going to start with dietary causes, because I think that's something that is fairly well known. Diets that are high in fructose, sugar, processed foods, and refined carbohydrates can certainly stress the liver further, particularly fructose. That's also known as fruit sugar. So you're going to find that in fruit, but also high fructose corn syrup. When table sugar breaks down, 50% of that is fructose. And then things like agave syrup have a high amount of fructose in them as well. The problem with fructose is that it tends to be metabolized more like alcohol than sugar. So it can actually lead to fat production in the liver without having that little warning sign of that high blood sugar. So other things that can impair our liver and stress our liver is environmental factors. And this one is huge. I'm certainly not going to cover all of the different environmental factors, but I do want to just bring up one that is particularly concerning right now. And if you're looking for more information about this, I would definitely look up Dr. Stephanie Seneff, who's a research scientist at MIT. So I'm talking about glyphosate. Glyphosate is an herbicide. It's the active compound in Roundup. And Dr. Stephanie Seneff has published numerous studies on the relationship between glyphosate and our health, things like autoimmunity, increased incidence of neurological disorders, for example. So glyphosate is a herbicide that's used on genetically modified foods, but really on most non-organic foods. So this could be corn, soy, cotton, wheat, canola, barley, rice. There's a lot of plants where glyphosate is used. And even if you follow a 100% organic diet, unfortunately, likely there's exposure just from the glyphosate being sprayed in parks and other public places. And thankfully, in the city of Richmond here in BC, there's a bylaw restricting the use of this particular herbicide. But this is fairly unusual just outside of Richmond. You'll definitely run into glyphosate in many different places. So how does glyphosate actually damage our body? It appears that glyphosate weakens collagen in our body. It can kill good bacteria like lactobacillus without killing the bad bacteria like Clostridia. When it comes to the liver, it can actually block a enzyme that is really important for detoxification. And because of all of these things, the WHO has classified glyphosate as probably carcinogenic in humans because it's associated with tumors, early deaths, birth defects, cancer, obesity, and dementia. So this is something that we definitely want to, number one, avoid if as much as possible, but also support our liver to be able to clear it out. The body processes glyphosate in different ways, and of course it's obviously having an impact in the liver, but it is cleared from the body, looks like mostly by the urine. So also very important to be hydrating well and supporting kidney function as well. Other sources of liver stress could be medications, of course. Acetaminophen is a common one, but also our own body hormones have to be processed through the liver. I mentioned before gut pathogens like yeast or mold. They can also produce biotoxins that the liver has to process as well. So there's all of these different things that the liver has to try to neutralize and process and clear out. And this is an active process for the liver, and the liver needs different vitamins and nutrients, different antioxidants in order to do all of this. Now, the resulting product of this is called bile. And maybe you've heard of bile as part of the discomfort in maybe reflux or in vomiting, or maybe you've heard of one of its main functions being in fat metabolism. The liver actually produces about 1 liter of bile a day, which is a substantial amount of metabolic activity occurring in the liver, and really shows how important that detoxification is to the body. So of course, if the liver is doing so much this processing and using vitamins and minerals for this, if there are deficiencies in the vitamins and minerals, that can further stress the liver. So let me go back to bile and just talk about that a little bit, because although it does help with fat digestion, absolutely, there's a lot more that it does. Of course, it's contains a lot of the compounds that have been processed, the byproducts of the toxins that the liver has processed. So we really want to get that out of the liver, of the gallbladder, and it goes into the intestines, and then hopefully out of the body through a bowel movement. Cholesterol is also part of that bile as well, and this is the way that it has a chance to leave the body, assuming regular bowel movements. Bile flow is also a trigger, a signal for bowel movements. So bile flow is really important to make sure that we're engaging in all regularly or supporting. Bile is also really important for gut flora balance and making sure that we have a good balance of good and bad bacteria. Bile flow is something I'll talk about for a moment, because it really is interconnected with a lot of the other digestive secretions. So bile flow depends on things like stomach acid being strong. So stomach acid is something that can be reduced with age. It can be reduced with stress or just eating in a rush. When we have good, strong stomach acid secretion, bile flow will follow that. A couple things that I like to do for bile flow is bitter foods. So dandelion leaves, arugula, things like that can be really helpful to get the bile flowing. Dr. Neetu and I love dandelion root tea. That's a really nice one to get your bile flowing. Food like artichoke, burdock is really great. Gentian has that really bitter flavor, which is found in digestive bitter. That can help with moving your bowel flow. And of course, a lack of bile flow not only impacts fat digestion, but when the bile doesn't move and it becomes thick, it can actually sit for longer and increase the risk of stones developing. So it's definitely something we want to make sure there's always good bile flow multiple times a day. Bile is really an indicator of liver health, because a poor quality of bile could be a result of the liver having a hard time with its functioning. But it's also a critical component of liver detoxification, because that's how we get a lot of those toxins out of our body, or at least into the intestines, and hopefully completely out of our body. When it comes to the liver, timing really does matter. I mentioned this before, but the liver has these two major cycles, a digestive cycle and a detox cycle. And during the day, the liver is primarily working on that digestive function. And then ideally, it switches over at night to the detox functions, mostly while we're sleeping. So that means that we really want to make sure that we're giving the cues to the liver to be able to do those different functions. So I definitely recommend finish eating early in the evening, say 7 o'clock, to allow the liver to finish with its digestive function and then switch over to its detox function. And during that time, when you're fasting, you can certainly stick to non-caloric type of beverages, herbal teas, water, that sort of thing. So speaking of drinks, one of the things that I would absolutely recommend trying is drinking lemon-infused water first thing in the morning. This is one of my favorite liver supportive activities. So let me clarify what I mean by lemon-infused water. So what we want to do is just get I use one of those large mason jars. I think it's about a liter in that jar. And putting about 500, 750 mils of water in that, and then cut the lemon in either quarters or halves, and just immerse the lemon in that water, and just without squeezing that lemon, just put the lemon into the water and let it just sit there overnight on the counter. I would put a little lid on that. But other than that, there's nothing that you need to do. Make that in the evening. And then in the morning, just drink the water, about 1-2 cups of it in the morning, first thing on an empty stomach. That it's going to have a lemon, sort of a very, very gentle, light taste of lemon. It's not going to be very sour at all. So it's very easy to drink and at room temperature. Of course, you can take the lemons out and use them in your cooking later on. Use them for lemon juice in your foods. But what we're trying to do with the lemon infused water is actually try to get that limonene component from the citrus peel. It's from the peel. So we actually are trying to get that into the water and then consume that in the morning. You can use other citrus fruit for this, lime, oranges. I generally think lemon tastes the best, but you can use other fruits. I don't recommend using grapefruit just because there are other issues with inhibiting phase 1 or the certain liver functions that may interact with medication. So I would generally avoid grapefruit, but I find lemon water in the morning can be a really, really nice support for your liver. It also tastes great, and it's a nice way to support that hydration at, I think, one of the most optimal times, first thing in the morning. So definitely, I recommend trying that. I will put the instructions on how to do that in the notes below in the summary. For this purpose, though, I would definitely recommend getting organic lemons, as we're trying to get that limonene from the peel. So organic for this one. I hope you'll try that out. All right. Lastly, I wanted to talk about sweating and eliminating toxins through your sweat. So some studies have found that chemicals like persistent organic pollutants, heavy metals, BPA, and phthalates are actually excreted in sweat. And sweating actually might be more effective at eliminating some of these chemicals than through other routes like urine. A group of 9/11 workers who were obviously exposed to massive amounts of toxins used sauna therapy as a major part of their recovery, and found that it was really helpful for lung issues, but also other what seemed like not related chronic conditions like depression and digestive issues. So the action step here is try to have maybe 1, 2, 3 times a week of sweating. That could be from exercise. That could be, if you're lucky to have a sauna at home, could be with sauna, or even just a hot bath. Just get to the point where you're actually dripping with sweat and allowing the chemicals to come out. And of course, making sure to wash that skin off with soap within 30 minutes of sweating so that it doesn't get reabsorbed. So for the for skin and sweating, getting those chemicals out, 1, 2, or 3 times a week would be ideal to just get that out through your skin. Okay, so just to recap what we've talked about today, the detox is a built-in automatic process. And what we need to do is simply create the conditions to allow it to happen. We don't need to force it to happen. One of the best ways of doing this, and one of the things I find is often missing in a detox program, is we have to treat it almost like a retreat. We want to create that yin sort of atmosphere for detoxification to occur. So that's with relaxation and um, cultivating that yin energy on a regular basis, daily basis if possible. And then the liver plays such a critical role in detox. If there's one place that you want to focus on, that would definitely be the place. Reducing, of course, the exposure to toxins. We talked about glyphosate, that herbicide, and supporting, of course, the liver's ability to process all of these chemicals, as well as the optimal timing for liver. Remember, the liver being able to detox more at night. If we stop eating, it will naturally go to that detox function at night. So one of the things, one of my favorite things to do for the liver is adding that lemon infused water to my morning routine. It's a super pleasant way to start the day. If you don't drink all of the water in that moment, I would just remove the lemons after that from the water, and then just cover the water and leave it in the fridge for the rest of the day. And then, of course, use the lemon separately for lemon juice or zest in your food later on. Generally, you do want to use a whole lemon for one 750 mils amount of water. And then the last thing we talked about was sweat, another great way of eliminating toxins without any special equipment. If we can get regular sweating, we can reduce the load of the toxic burden on our body. So a really nice way of doing a gentle detoxification. For the next week, I hope that you can add one or two of these things, maybe the lemon water, and let me know how you feel. Let me know how you like it. If you'd like to find out more about your specific detox status, like what's my antioxidant levels, do I have specific chemicals or mold burden, what's my liver function like, we are available for virtual appointments, so just give us a call to book for that. But I really encourage you to try just one or two of these things at this time of the year, especially. Is just a perfect time to start to layer in more of these detox friendly activities. That's it for today. Thanks for watching. Please share this with anyone you think that will benefit from this. Thanks for joining me today, and we will see you next time. Bye.